Welcome in, Brett, to the conversation this morning. Brett, it's National Signing Day, but we've really haven't spent any time on that an hour and 15 minutes into the program. And I know back when you were going through this at Fort Smith Northside, it was a massive deal the first Wednesday in February. How has that changed, and do you like the lack of anticipation that's now associated with today?
Well, it was huge because it was always about getting that fax out, first in the morning and get it all done. And now, everybody signs before Christmas, and then you got the transfer portal and everything else. So college football has just changed. I think it's evolved for the better for the sport. And that just, for right now, you've got guys, a lot of them that have been on the fence. You're going to sign, but you're not having the big schools where all the rankings come out and doing the draft show, the type shows. With all the families on this day.
And when you think about National Signing Day, it's like you sign, you commit to school. With the NCAA and so many kids transferring now, I wonder when a kid commits and a kid signs with a certain school, how much in the back of some coaches' heads they know that they're going to have to do to continuously recruit this kid. And like when he's on campus, he's already signed. You think about the changes in that area. Brett, how much has that changed? Like when you were in school, transfers didn't seem to be as rampant. Is that a true representation of 10 plus years ago to how it is in 2021?
Well, yes, it is. And you not only do you have to please the kid, and you have all these, it is what it is where we give trophies to every kid coming up. So every kid you got to please. If they're not playing, they don't feel like they can sit on the bench. They always think they're better than the other players. So you've got to please them on that end. And then if you happen to have an assistant leave or your other coaches, you've got to try and get them to stay because you've got to remember that coach is the one that recruited them and they've got that relationship. And then you have, your kids that have the all-in mentality that really want to go to that school, and it's a lifelong dream. So it's a constant battle, and that's one of the hardest things to do is just continually recruiting those players.
Former Razorback and Super Bowl champion with the Green Bay Packers, Brett Goode with us. It's brought to you by Henderson Phillips Employer Solutions. It is Super Bowl week. I know it's different this year because of COVID, but take us back nearly a decade. What do you remember? What was it, 2012? What do you remember from Super Bowl week as you got ready and the team traveled to Arlington?
It was the 2010 season. It was early February 2011. What was great is when we went down, obviously we're coming from Green Bay, Wisconsin. We're going for the full week. That's what those guys are, unfortunate for them. But, luckily they've kind of both been through it. But we went down, spent the whole week, and you get to do, the first part of the week, you're practicing doing media requirements, and you're going about your day, and then you get to go to the mall. And I remember, we had the big ice storm back in Dallas, and Aaron and I still joke about the time they give us a car that you split between two guys. So we decided to drive the mall one afternoon. And this car's got 500 miles on it. And all of a sudden this call comes through OnStar, and it's a collection agency trying to catch somebody. And, we have to explain to them that, that it's not our car. It's not our, not our bill.
Wait a minute. So you and Aaron Rodgers are in a loaner car going to the mall in between practices for the Super Bowl. And the person calling from the collection agency had no idea that the starting quarterback in the Super Bowl was on the other end of the line, did they?
No, and Aaron being Aaron, we talked to him for about 30 minutes because traffic was slow in Dallas at the time, so we had nothing else to do, and so it was quite comical. Just had some fun with them, and a random thing like that to ever happen is just crazy, but to do it in that instant, it was unreal.
Yeah, that collection agent had no idea, literally no idea who they were talking to. All right, so Tom Brady and the Bucs are that Tampa's the host team. First time we've ever seen a home team Super Bowl, and of course it happens in a year where the crowd's going to be limited, crowd's going to be different. Is that an edge at all this year? I know it's noteworthy because it's not happened, but what do you make of that element of this game?
I don't know if it's an edge because you saw a lot of teams go into different places like Seattle this year, where they've always been really hard to win, and teams came away with wins. So I think that, the biggest thing is, Kansas City's been there. Obviously, Tom's been to a bunch of Super Bowls with Gronk, and so they're going to relay the message. Both teams have a lot of stars on the team, so they're going to be in big games. They've been in big games, and there's just going to be a lot of emotion going through it. I think there's a small chance of rain that comes through. So those guys will be ready to go, and it's just going to be just normal game as possible. Get as close to a normal game as you can. The commercials are a little bit longer. Half times are longer. I don't know this year. I haven't seen. I know that there's a lot of people pulling support on commercials, but when we were there, we changed socks. Some guys changed jerseys and pants because your normal halftime is 12 minutes. The Super Bowl is 28 minutes at least. And so it's an adjustment that you have to go through. It's a longer game, and you just have to kind of ride it out for the whole thing and stay in it.
Talking with Brett Goode, former Razorback, former Green Bay Packer, here on the Morning Rush, part of the Henderson Phillips Employer Solutions team now. Brett, still staying in the NFL, but stepping outside of the Super Bowl. Deshaun Watson, reportedly from Chris Sims, a Pro Football Talk, will not play another down for the Houston Texans. It's also reported that he might consider sitting out another season. Where do you think Deshaun Watson would make a good fit in the National Football League?
I think there's some heavy interest for the Jets. I think I've also heard the Washington football team. The Washington football team supposedly was going to make a run at Dak if Dallas doesn't, franchise him or sign him. I think they're in the market. Obviously, they cut Haskins in the season, and they've got Alex Smith, who said he wants to play, but he's getting older, so we've got to, they've got to have somebody else in there to compete in the division. So I think a long shot would be Urban Meyer, because Urban was noted as saying that he was kind of the one quarterback recruit he couldn't get to come, even for to really commit to anything, because of how good a job Clemson did. So I think anywhere he goes, he would help immediately. There was a report the other day talking about the 49ers, saying that they could get him out there, and that they might be the number one in the division if they get him. And it would, interestingly, put the Rams at number 4 in that division possibly. So it's a very interesting circle that's going on, obviously with the Stafford trade and the golf trade with the Rams. Stuff that we haven't seen in years before, with quarterbacks being traded with all this money. And then, for Deshaun, for sitting out, so there's a lot of people that don't blame him, because there was a lot of racial stuff that happened with the owner. And there's things that he has to take care of for himself and feel like he's protected. And they're not really putting people around him to win. You've seen the people they've gotten rid of over the years, and they haven't really, drafted well in that case either.
Brett, you bring up the Los Angeles Rams. They made a trade for Matthew Stafford, gave up some draft picks, gave up Jared Goff. I found it interesting that one of the reports said Stafford did not want to be traded to Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots. Do you think the Belichick and the Patriot way has worn off a little bit with Tom Brady departing?
Well, the thing about, Matthew Stafford is you got to remember Matt Patricia has gone back. So Matthew Stafford I think they were second in the division when Patricia came to Detroit, and, he had to live through that, through all those years in Detroit with Matt. And so now Matt's gone back to New England. He doesn't want anything to do with it. And I think it has worn off. But I think Bill has also proven that he has won before without, Tom Brady. It hasn't been a lot, but, he has won. And I think if Tom goes out there and wins, I think it solidifies that Tom was kind of the lead ringer of that whole operation. And so it'll be kind of a battle to see if Bill can get back to the Super Bowl, and they can go back and forth for who the greatest is. But they're both phenomenal. And I think if you put yourself in that position, on either side, whether you're a coach or you're a player, and have those opportunities, I think your name has to be mentioned in some of the greatest of all time.
When it comes to that conversation of Belichick and Brady, is the correct answer they needed each other? I mean, I think that's got to be where you end up landing, and that's the correct answer, is both these guys needed each other to have the success they've had.
I agree with that. You look early in Tom's career. I mean, Tom, we've talked about this. Tom's had 2 Hall of Fame careers, if you look at it. Early in his career, the defense carried him. Then you look at later in his career, the offense has carried him with Tom. And Tom has put up some good numbers, but he hasn't put up the, astronomical quarterback numbers that we've seen today until recently. And so they both needed each other. They both went back and forth. And I still think that, Bill Belichick's way obviously works because of the amount of success that they had with all players, not just Tom Brady at New England. And so I think Tom has definitely carried that down to Tampa Bay, because you've seen him always talking about remarks. They talk about the Pro Bowl, and they talk about All-Pro, and Tom has always been, those things are not important. The important thing is rings.
Yeah.
That's what Tom has always chased. And I think he got that from Bill Belichick, because, Tom was obviously a very late pick in the draft. Nobody wanted him. He had a chip on his shoulder, and he still carries that today.
Yeah. kind of like Jordan, as we learned in the docuseries with Michael Jordan, that chip on the shoulder, even if you have to invent it yourself sometimes, seems to be what fuels those special elite all-timers, those GOATs. So which is going to be more impressive? Because one of the two is going to happen on Sunday. You're going to have a quarterback at under the age of 20 or 25 or less that has won 2 Super Bowls, or a quarterback that has won 2 past the age of 40. For your money, which impresses you the most? Mahomes' possibility or what Brady? We know what Brady's done over his career, but to have possibly 2 after the age of 40 is quite noteworthy as well.
Well, it is, and I think that, it's a phenomenal on both sides, because we're watching two things that, we haven't seen a back-to-back quarterback win that young, and have the success they've had, because, they're an offsides penalty away from being in another Super Bowl, before that. So you've got a real dynasty being built here, but then you've got Tom Brady, who already has 6. He's going to his 10th Super Bowl, and in our lifetime, we'll probably never see that again unless Patrick Mahomes does that, because he's the only one that's really set up for that right now. If you look across the board of contracts within the teams, and they've taken contract cuts there in Kansas City to be able to have this dynasty. So I just want a really good football game. I know that's kind of a cliche thing to say, but realistically, the defenses they're both good. But you want to see the quarterbacks kind of go at it, and it'd be great to see it come down, to the last drive, possession of the game, to have a quarterback drive down and take the victory for that Super Bowl.
What's your number one memory? When we think about or talk about the Super Bowl you played in 2011 in Cowboy Stadium, what's the one memory that comes to mind first for you?
Well, first is, when we got that, turnover at the very end of the game, and you knew we clinched the game, it was just, the crowd went nuts, the sideline went nuts, and it really sank in that it was real. And I'll tell you another fun memory there is, we got to go to one of Jerry's bars there after the game, because we had to wait for the media requirements after the game. We had to sit on the bus for 3 hours after the game.
Oh, Lord.
If you're not the starting quarterback or the head coach. So we all were sitting there on the bus just, having a great time. So just being able to celebrate that with your teammates after all the hard work from, the dorms to the training camps, to all the long meetings and the rough year, it was just everything kind of sat in, and it was just a surreal moment.
Yeah, the surreal long winter ahead with no football that's coming after Sunday, too. So we all have to deal with that as fans, that there's no more football for a little while after this week, too. All right, Brett Goode's with us. He's with us every Wednesday, brought to you by Henderson Phillips Employer Solutions. Brett, you do it all: employee benefits, health insurance, staffing management solutions, commercial and personal real estate. If somebody needs any of those things, they should call you at 651-2292.
That's right. We can handle it all. I've actually had a client, if you're just unhappy with your agent, but you like your insurance plan you're on, we can find a letter of records. I actually got one of those that we're working on this morning. And so it's an easy process, whether we do life, we do health, for a group or whatever. So we can definitely take care of you on all aspects.
479-651-2292. That's Brett's direct number. That's the number he's talking on right now with us. So you can get a hold of him with call or text to that number, 651-2292. We've been talking about video games throughout the morning. What was your favorite, or what is your favorite video game of all time?
Well, I loved Duck Hunt when I was a little kid, obviously Mario Brothers. But, I'm so glad that they're bringing the college football game back, because I had a great time with that in college. You bring all this stuff, and you actually get to kind of create your own dynasty. And it's phenomenal. You get to go through the recruiting process and everything else. So it was a fun game that, spent hours and hours and hours on trying to build, I guess real life Alabama dynasty, on a video game.
Brett, it's a fantastic game. I'm looking forward to it when it comes out in a couple years. We always appreciate you hopping in with us. Hopefully we'll have a fun Super Bowl to talk about next Wednesday, brother.
All right. Sounds good. Have a good one.